The auction hall smelled of iron and despair. Rows of cages shimmered under the cold white lights, each one holding what was left of defeated species, prisoners from the recent Orion campaigns, stripped of armor, name, and pride. To most buyers, it was business. To Ethan Vance, it was curiosity. He wasn't a slaver, not really. The Intergalactic Confederacy had legalized bond service for captured combatants after the war, a way to reintegrate enemies through labor instead of execution. Ethan, a civilian engineer from Earth, had been assigned to the frontier colony of Callistria as a systems supervisor. He had come to the auction because he needed a personal assistant for field repairs in the Badlands. But when the guards dragged out her cage, the noise in the hall faded to silence. She was tall, with copper-toned skin and silver hair braided in chains. Her eyes were a shade of violet that didn't belong to this world. A faint scar ran across her jaw. Her wrists were bound in inhibitor cuffs, glowing faintly blue. Lot 47, the auctioneer announced. Cartelian Combat Unit, female, trained warrior caste, designation. Lyra of House Sean. Combat rated, multilingual, no behavioral implants. Bidders murmured. A few soldiers whistled. Someone laughed crudely about training her properly. Ethan's stomach turned. Opening bid. 5,000 credits. Hands rose. The number climbed. 10, 15, 20. Then she looked up. Straight at him. And in that instant, something wordless passed between them. Defiance, exhaustion, and a trace of something he hadn't expected in her gaze. Hope. Ethan raised his hand. 30. The room stilled. No one countered. The auctioneer banged the gavel. Sold. Lot 47, to the Earthling. The processing officer scanned Lyra's collar into Ethan's registry. Ownership bond for a cycle, the man said flatly. You're responsible for her food, housing, and conduct. If she disobeys, the collar can deliver corrective shock levels up to paralysis. Ethan frowned. I won't need that. The officer chuckled. They all say that. When she was brought to him later, she stood silent, tall and proud even in rags. Her eyes never left his. You understand me? He asked. She nodded slowly. You paid for me. Speak your commands. I don't have any commands, he said. Just follow me. You'll help with maintenance at the relay outpost. You'll be paid, fed, and free to sleep when you choose. She blinked, suspicious. No chains. He glanced at the collar. Just that until your term is over. I can't override it. For a moment, she studied him as though trying to detect the lie. Then she said softly, Humans are strange. Days turned into weeks. Callistria's frontier was a harsh world, sulfur winds, thin air, and metallic sand that bit into everything. Ethan's outpost was a rusting structure on the edge of the desert, halfway between human territory and the ruins of what had once been Cartelli strongholds. Lyra worked tirelessly, her movements precise and graceful. She repaired conduits, calibrated antennae, and carried plasma coils as though they weighed nothing. She rarely spoke, but when she did, her words were sharp and measured. You don't fight, she said one evening, watching him struggle to tighten a rusted bolt. Yet you survived the war. I fix things, he replied. Someone has to rebuild after everyone else breaks them. She tilted her head. You build what others destroy. That is unusual. He smiled faintly. It's the only way I know how to live. One night, a storm rolled across the desert, lightning that sang like steel and winds that tore through metal. The power grid failed. Ethan went out to secure the generator, but the storm was too strong. He lost his footing, falling hard into the sand, disoriented. A flash of light struck nearby, and then, Through the roaring dark, he saw her silhouette. Lyra fought the wind like a living flame, her hair whipping around her as she lifted the fallen generator plate. Sparks danced off her skin. She reached him, pulled him upright, and half-carried him back inside. When they finally sealed the hatch, he realized she was bleeding from her shoulder, a shard of metal buried deep. "Sit down," he said, grabbing a medkit. She hissed. "It is nothing." "It's not nothing," he snapped. "You saved my life." Her eyes softened, the first crack in her mask. "In my world, debts are not ignored. You bought my body. You will not owe me my life as well." "Then we'll call it even," he said quietly. "No debts. No chains." She stared at him for a long moment. "No chains," she repeated. Weeks passed. Her distrust melted, replaced by something neither of them wanted to name. She began to ask about Earth. Oceans, music, cities that stretched into the clouds. He told her stories of rain that didn't burn, of people dancing under electric lights, of coffee that smelled like mornings and comfort. And one night, as the twin moons rose, she told him her story. "I was heir to a warrior house," she said softly. "We were taught that humans were weak, that mercy was a flaw. When I was captured, my sisters said I should die before bowing to an Earthling." She looked at him then, eyes glimmering like molten glass. "But you do not bow or kill. You repair. You restore what others have broken. I do not understand it." Ethan met her gaze. "Maybe strength isn't about who you can break. Maybe it's about what you can heal." Silence. Then she whispered, "If my people had believed that, perhaps we would have survived." One morning, a convoy arrived, corporate enforcers checking on registered bonds. The officer looked at Lyra's file and smirked. "This one's prime stock. You could sell her for triple what you paid." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She's not for sale." "Careful," the officer said. "She's still property. Don't start thinking they're people." When they left, Lyra asked quietly, "You risk angering them for me. Why?" He looked at her. "Because you're not a thing, Lyra. You never were." Her hands trembled slightly. "On my world, to speak that way of a captive is to claim them as family or mate." He hesitated, unsure if he'd misunderstood. Her eyes held his, unblinking. Then the alarm blared. A Sand Raider attack. Rogue slavers scavenging old war tech. Explosions rocked the outpost. Ethan grabbed his blaster and pushed Lyra toward cover. "Stay here," he shouted. But she was already gone, running into the storm with a soldier's grace. Outside, plasma fire lit the night. Lyra fought like lightning itself, her inhibitor collar flashing as she overloaded it, every strike a defiance of its control. Ethan saw her take down 3 raiders before one blast hit her square in the chest. He screamed her name. When the dust cleared, she was lying motionless. The collar sparked, burning her neck. Ethan ripped it off, hands shaking. "Lyra, stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open. "You freed me," she whispered. "Truly." He pressed the emergency injector against her neck. "Don't you dare die on me." Her lips curved faintly. "If I live, then my life is yours." She did live. Barely. The Confederacy declared the bond null after the attack. Ethan was offered compensation for loss of property. He refused. Instead, he took her north, beyond the colonized zones, to the mountains where the air was clean and the sky was untouched by trade ships. There, he rebuilt the outpost, smaller, quieter, just for them. Lyra's scars faded over time, though she never removed the broken collar from her shelf.